Please stand and pledge the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rita, would you call roll, please?
Well, Vice
Whatever. Here.
Vice Mayor Gainer, Commissioner Stanley.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let the record show that the town manager, William Thrasher, and the town attorney, John Randolph, are also present.
We have the minutes from our regular meeting on May 9th, as well as the workshop meeting on the same day. Any corrections, comments, or additions?
Just that Nancy Wobblesman's name was written as Wimbledon. Somebody had their mind on tennis at the time. But she did make a public comment.
Any other?
She was, if you recall, she spoke
Yes.
towards the end of the meeting and she was sworn in.
All right.
The last name?
It was written correctly once as Wobblesman
Yeah.
and incorrectly as Wimbledon at another time, just for the record.
Any other corrections? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Rita?
Vice Mayor Gainer,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. We do have an addition today, Mr. Randolph.
Yes, I've prepared an ordinance for your consideration. It's 14/2, and I would request that you amend the agenda to incorporate that. I suppose that will come after item E, before item 10.
Either that or it can come under item 10. Either way, you
Wherever.
prefer.
Let's put it under item 10. Are there any objections?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Under Robert's Rules of Order, I would call for the orders of the day. And this is not a member, or this is not listed on the agenda, and I think it would be inappropriate to have it heard today until it is listed on the agenda, and it's not in violation of Robert's Rules of Order, which guides this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any objection by the commission? And let's put it under item 10.
10C.
10C. Any other additions? Withdrawals? Our next meeting is July 11th. Is everyone going to be in attendance? As far as you know. Okay, is Senator Sachs in the building?
No.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Yes, Mr. O'Hare.
Thank you, Chairman. Chris O'Hare. I received a letter in the mail from the mayor, which I think everybody else did in town as well, and I had some issues with it. And it seemed the spirit tries to lay the blame for a lot of the town's problems on some of the residents. And I really think, well, I know from observations that the majority of the commission are reasonable, fair-minded people, and I'm trying to think, where the heck does all this wrongdoing come from? And it occurs to me, you're just not kept in the loop, that the town attorney and the town manager are perhaps not keeping you informed of all the things, or maybe giving you the counsel you should be getting. For instance, the town attorney is supposed to advise you to keep you out of legal trouble, and yet I see instance after instance where just the opposite's happened, and I certainly wouldn't want to suggest that this is done to churn fees. That would be silly. But I'll give you an example. You passed an interlocal agreement to have Delray Beach do your inspections. State law says, and it's referenced in the local agreement, that that has to be certified with the, or registered with the clerk. Recorded with the clerk, rather, the court. It took 4 years to do that. state law says that's an ineffective agreement until such time as it's recorded. So every fee collected for a permit can be returned. It's just perfect class action stuff. And I can't understand why the town attorney leads you down this primrose path all the time. I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Boyle?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I have a few things that I'd like to go over, but first and foremost, I just want to give an explanation to the commissioners and to the public. And that is, you will notice that I no longer stand for the flag salute. And the reason that I don't want me to do that. And the reason for it is, when I woke up this morning, I was in America. When I walked through those doors, it ended. This is no longer America in here. The flag salute to me means something. In this chamber, it means nothing. So I just wanted to make that explanation so that in case anybody asked, they would have the explanation from the horse's mouth. The mayor sent a letter out about litigation. And boy, it sure is expensive. I didn't see Mr. Randolph pull up in a Rolls Royce, so I know he's not getting all of the money, although his firm, as of February to February, billed close to $300,000. Frankly, looking at the bills, and we've looked at them, makes me puke. To my knowledge, the town has never won a case since January 13th in a Hall of Justice. And by the way, I have no issues with Mr. Randolph. I think he's a good attorney. I think his pricing is sensational, and I think he represents this commission in the best fashion he knows how, and one that this commission should be very pleased with. But that's my opinion. Then you brought in Mr. Sweet Apple, who's clearly the fair-haired boy. I don't know why a firm like Jones Foster isn't enough, but I guess the mayor doesn't have any buddies at Jones Foster. That's the only solution that I can come to. Mr. Sweet Apple's clearly a hotshot lawyer. The mayor gave the commission and the residents a build-up that was frankly exciting. $500 an hour, charging us $350 an hour, and he had experience in public records law. Well, there has been another lawsuit filed against the town. And the lawsuit that was filed against the town was based upon Mr. Sweetapple's non-compliance with the state statute, Chapter 119 for public records. He redacted portions of his bill, and anyone who knows anything about public records knows if you're going to redact, you have to tell under which exception, if that's the right word, under which exception you're redacting. Mr. Ganger could say, I'm redacting my Social Security number in accordance with this section. Well, that would be proper. Mr. Thrasher has done redactions, same way. Here he didn't, here you got a lawsuit. Also on his bill, he talks about the word sunshine. Well, there's a document called the Sunshine Manual, which teaches you how to navigate through the Records Act. So, where this guy came from, I guess it'll always be a secret to me. One of my lawyers was in the courthouse and learned a little bit about Mr. Sweetapple. He had a case in the First District Court of Appeals before Judge Benton. The judge found that Mr. Sweetapple consistently misrepresented testimony and failed to acknowledge well-established case law, including Supreme Court precedents. There was another case in Palm Beach County Circuit Court. The judge, Elizabeth Moss, says that Mr. Sweetapple's filing was a slander.
I've got 5 minutes,
Of
Mr.
the-
O'Boyle.
Yes, you do, don't you? Do you want to let me finish?
Concludes your public comment.
Pardon?
That concludes your public comment.
Well, I know. Do you want to let me finish is my question.
No, I don't.
I can understand why,
You
Mayor.
have 5 minutes, sir. Make your point in 5 minutes.
Okay, I did.
Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's move on to the public hearing. Were there any ex parte communications relative to that application? If not, witnesses please stand before.
Anyone intend to speak during this session? Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, you're closer.
Don't go far.
I won't go far. Turn off. It's not on the screen, that's why I can't see it. Which one's
Trouble with technology.
not showing?
That's not on your screen there?
It's not on the screen at all, so I can't see which ones. Is that it?
Can't get it?
Going back to the old
We
fashioned.
have better copies.
I still got the easel.
Hold on.
How do we move again?
You need to go here or you can just-
This one goes. Which one?
just do that.
Good morning, Mark Marsh, Bruce Marsh Architects. I'm here this morning representing Mr. Robert Gardner, 530 Old School Road. The request this morning is for a bedroom expansion to the southwest corner of the existing residence. And it involves two special exceptions regarding setbacks and then the level 3 architectural review. The area in question is this area shaded in black here. The water's here and Old School is in this area here. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar. It's a typical Gulfstream Bermuda. It hasn't been modified or touched since 1965 or 66. This is the existing floor plan, the road in here, the garage, and the request is to, is to add this bedroom extension, Mr. Gardner, as you may know, has had an unfortunate accident, and he's pretty well wheelchair bound or very restricted in his ability to walk. And he needs to have some in-house care. So currently there's no area. We actually looked at the possibility of adding over the garage, but we know that that's not a favorable. So we decided to do this modest addition to the southwest corner. The reason for the special exception is that we want to extend along the existing side yard and to match the existing rear yard setbacks, which when this house was built, it complied. It's just over the years, over the 40 years or 45 years, the codes have changed. So the request, that's the request for the special exception. The roof is going to be matching identically. You can see the above, before, or current, existing, and after. It will balance the house. This is the master wing, and this is the new expansion. It's very straightforward. This is the, looking from the side. This is the area in question, which is the west end of the existing patio, and it's really extending that wing of the house. That's another look at it. This is the landscaping, which again is very minimal. We're doing some foundation landscaping, but I'll answer any questions that the commission may have, since it's such a straightforward request.
Mark, does the floor in the new room, is it just simply straight from from whatever is connecting it there? I can't see that far, but same elevation?
Yes, it's matching
So
existing.
there's no step or?
No step or any change in level.
Any concerns voiced by neighbors?
Yeah.
What is to the left there? I can't.
There's a similar house. There are like 3 houses that are almost built in the same era, and they're 1-story, old, original Bermuda Gulf Stream houses. So this is not visible from the street, or it impacts nobody.
Other questions by commission? Comments by staff?
None.
Motion?
I make a motion to recommend approval of special exception to permit the addition of a 253 square foot bedroom to an existing home that encroaches approximately 3.5 feet into the west side setback.
I'll second that. Vice Mayor Gainer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Rothwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Make a motion to recommend approval of special exception to permit the addition of a 253 square foot bedroom to an existing home that extends approximately 5 feet to the rear waterfront setback in the core design district.
Second it?
Vice Mayor Gainer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Rothwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Motion to recommend approval of level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the proposed construction of a 253 square foot bedroom addition to an existing non-conforming Bermuda style 1-story single-family dwelling at the location described herein meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards.
I'll second it.
Vice Mayor Gainer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Rothwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our reports. Mr. Brown?
Good morning, Danny Brannon, Danny Gillespie. 4 bullets on page 2 of our handout that you have there with you. The underground contractor has, I think, 5 short shots left to do with the board. They're down around Pelican and the tennis club, and he'll be totally complete with doing all the boring. There will be some minor trenching for services and things like that, but the main line boring is just about all wrapped up. They continue to be on their schedule of completing by the end of August. The feeder lines are complete all the way from Golf View to the south end of town. And much of the primary cable's been pulled in. All the equipment pads have been set north of South Road, and the crews will be coming along and placing the transformers. We have updated the status diagram that we put out. We put red dots in there where transformers are going, and you can see the ones that are on the ground now in solid red. And there's a handout on page 3 that kind of depicts that. And you can barely see, but there's circles that need to be filled in red that will be the other transformers that they'll be setting. So they're progressing well. We got the authorization to send the light fixture back to the factory to get the color corrected, and we'll be doing that so we can get the right fixture up for the people to approve and accept prior to ordering. The weekly status, we continue to discuss any issues we have weekly with the contractor. We also do week spot checks and visits to the site whenever we need it. And things seem to be moving along on schedule, on budget. We don't really have any issues to report.
It's a good thing.
Danny, when does the landscape team come in? Is that after the transformers are set and there's no reason to go back in to wherever they are? And how does that work?
Well, in cases where we are clearing up an area that we don't have Comcast coming in to dig it up again, or AT&T, in those cases we can do some landscaping in advance as soon as the equipment is set and all the cables are connected up and everything is done. We don't want to go in and do the landscaping remediation until all the work is done. But we will not wait till 100% of the work. We'll do what we can as we can.
To the extent that the landscaping requires, if it's new plantings, it requires watering, irrigation, I assume that's the responsibility of the homeowner. If it's on an easement, it's on the homeowner's property, or does somebody come around and make sure that the any new landscaping survives?
Typically, we work with the contractors to make sure that when they're planting something that's going to survive, that they have a warranty on it. They just can't stick it out there and let it die.
That's not the answer to the question.
In most cases, we'll be letting them make sure that it's maintaining adequate water. We don't really rely on the residents or others to do that, although a lot of them will. But we consider our responsibility that we put this landscaping in. It should be maintained to a point where it sustains itself.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Town manager?
No report.
ARPP's next meeting, later this month, 26th. There's a financial report. Any questions?
Excuse me,
Sorry?
Mr. Mayor, the ARPB meeting is the discussion of the ad hoc report by the ARPB and any actions that they deem necessary to take. Is that at the next meeting?
It'll be on the ARPB agenda for this coming meeting on the
Coming meeting.
26th.
Okay.
Right, they'll all be given a copy of the report.
Yes.
And directed to begin their considerations on it.
Right.
Yeah, we want to get that done as soon
Sure.
as possible.
It's not everything though, is it? Rita?
It's the recommendations of the ad hoc committee, along with the chairman's summary letter that he sent. And there will be some housekeeping matters that'll be brought to the ARPB, but they probably will not be all done at this meeting. We thought it was important to get the ad hoc's recommendations
Sure.
out of the way first.
Any other comments on that? Okay. We have a financial report. Questions, comments? submitted. Water usage report. Any questions or comments?
I did have
Yes.
a
I'm
question
On which one?
on the
Financial?
financial report. The capital outlay for streets, it looked like the variance for the current month was 28,666. I was just wondering what that was. It was like the 4 pages from the back, from the end. 4
There's a
pages
page number.
forward from the end, under the title streets.
Page
that-
6.
Okay, page 6, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Capital outlay streets.
The structure of the budget going forward from last year has been to identify a monthly budget amount, which in many cases is just simply an allocation per month. So in this month, we did not have any current expenditures, but there was a budgeted item of 28,667, which therefore created a favorable variance. We are holding off on capital expenditures, only where necessary, and so we anticipate an expenditure for the lights, but that will be closer to the end of the year. So this favorable variance that was created is just because of the allocation of a monthly expenditure of the entire yearly budget. Kelly's here, she's probably much better at that than me, but that's I think, the answer to your question.
Right, so it would be the lighting issue, yeah.
The lighting,
Basically.
and in that capital line item was the amount of money recognized for street lighting as well as street signs.
Thank you.
Other questions on balance sheet? Water usage? We've submitted police activity sheet.
The activity report for May 2014 was to be accepted as submitted. I also note that the difference between two reports, we have transitioned to new software. And this is the most report will come now.
Any questions on the sheet? So, submitted. Items. We have a full complement on the ARPB, however, we have 4 board members and 3 alternates. We need to promote one of the alternates to the full member board. Gillet Kent, Bob Doherty, and Curtis Roach are the alternates. Comments?
Bob Doherty, is he the newest next in line to go up, or?
I believe Bob may have been briefly ahead of Hewlett.
I think so, yeah.
And
yes.
Curtis, of course, was just
The
last
last
month. Let's put this on hold just a sec, because I don't want to delay our guest. Senator Sachs is here. We're honored to have you here today.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Mayor. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor, residents. Shall I stand over here, please?
Wherever you become.
Thank you. There's always a boss here.
Only where it's microphones.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Maria Sachs. I'm the state senator for this district. I've been your state senator for the last 2 years. So I thought I'd come over, introduce myself, and let you know what kind of job performance I've done for the last 2 years. Many of you may not know me, but I was your neighbor. I lived at the Yacht and Racket Club for a number of years, till I had too many children. And there's certain rules about having babies in the pool. So we moved to West Boca, and in the meantime, my kids continued to go to school at St. Joan of Arc, over and then to St. Andrews for middle school and high school. Luckily, they're all gone now and went to great colleges and have jobs, which is a very good thing. And that's what I'm all about. I want to make sure that the economy here in this area, since we are the tax basis for the state, let's not forget that the state of Florida is funded very much by the revenue that comes from my district, that our voices are heard in Tallahassee. So I'm here to listen to you, to let you know that I'm here to listen to you. And whatever it is that is of interest to the people of this city is the interest to me. I have sacred trust that you placed in me as your state senator. I see it very much like a job. And I'm back here to let you know what the performance was, that we increased funding for beach renourishment since I lived on the beach for many years. I think it's very important that we make sure that our beaches are taken care of. One of the reasons why folks come here and live here and buy property here is because of the health of our beaches. You know, it's long been thought that you could take care of the beach a little bit to the north or a little bit to the south, but common sense says that if you take care of the beaches to the north or to the south, you're going to be affected in the middle. So we have a lot of small communities here. And it's my job to make sure that the money that I was able to help put in, not that I did it all myself, but that I was helped to put in, goes to the beaches all the way from all of my district, because I take care of the whole coast, from Boynton Beach Inlet all the way down to Port Everglades. And I made sure that the same amount of money was put in for all the beaches in this area. Another thing that I'm very much concerned in, I'm in finance and tax and regulated industries, is we keep our property taxes sensible. So I don't want to go into too much more time other than that, but I want you to know that my office is in the Delray City Hall. If there is any time that you have an issue that you want me to address, my chief of staff, Joshua Freeman, is here, and I'm here for you. Some cities want me to spend an hour or two once a week in their city hall to listen to the complaints. Sometimes I'll have somebody will come in and say, you know, you've done a great job, but most of the time there's issues that they have. And you know that better than I do, because when a property owner has an issue or complaint, they go to you. This is the first level of government. And this is the level where you know more what the issues are than Congress or even the state legislature. So I'm here. I want you to know who I am, and that I'm available to you, Mayor, and members of this commission, and as well as to the people here in Gloucester. Thank you so much. But any questions or anything, I'm here to answer them.
You have an election coming up, as I recall.
I always have an election coming up. I've served 8 years, sir, and I've run every 2 years. Even though senators have 4-year terms, I'm lucky to have a 2-year term because of redistricting. So I'm used to it. I think it's a good thing. I always visit my cities after a 2-year term. And you've never been under my district before, except for the last 2 years because of redistricting. But this is something I do every 2 years. Tell you the truth, I think every public official in Congress as well as in the state should run every 2 years, because it keeps us close to the people. So I do this every 2 years for every city I've ever represented. And this is one of my newest ones. So you and Briny Breezes and some of the other ones here on the coast, I'm on a 17-city tour. Maybe I'll have a t-shirt made, you know. Wish it was as exciting as maybe a rock and roll band. But I just want you to know that I'm here. There's always politics involved, and you know and I know that we have divided government, and many times the issues that concern the government in Tallahassee do not involve those of us down south here. And I'm a scrappy person. I like to have my voice heard. I have my own business. I got into politics right from my business. not a partisan on either side. I just like to see solutions. And I like to see people who respond to the, you know, to the wants of people. So, yeah, you'll probably be seeing a lot of politics this couple of months, but I think that's a good thing. I think it makes every politician responsive to the people who hired them. It's a job, and we need to let you know how our performance is, and you need to let us know what you need. So, any other questions or anything else? And
Any other questions for Senator Zach? Well, we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Stopping in to see us. I know you're very busy on the.
Thank you, Mayor
on the
Morgan.
city
Thank
tour.
you very much. It is, and it's, you know, I've never represented this far north before. I've always represented mostly the cities of Delray and Boca Raton, a little bit of Boynton, and it's all been west of I-95. But since redistricting, they put me over here, which is fine because this is where I lived for many years in this area. And so I know I might have even gotten a ticket or two coming, you know. But your law enforcement is effective, let me say that. But I know that this is a small community, but I also know that this community contributes a lot to our revenue, and I think that your voices need to be heard. So whatever it is that I can do for you, I'm here. I'm here all summer. It's only a 60-day session. Other than that, I'm here for you.
Right, well, we appreciate the offer and the opportunity to meet you today.
Thank you, Morgan. It does. Mayor Morgan, thank you. Thanks, all of you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good weekend.
Drive slow.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay, getting back to the ARPV. So we have three alternates. Mr. Doherty is probably senior, but slightly. Mr. Kent is former chairman of the ARPV. And I think Curtis is too new to be considered.
My view is that let's give Mr. Doherty a chance to get up on the dais. He's a perfect guy and a smart man. I vote he'd go, and we always know that Gilbert's in the wings.
Right. Doing timing sequence.
The only question I would have, and this isn't, you know, this might be nothing, but is there anyone on the ARPD that isn't here like most of the time, that somebody else would, like Hewlett, who's here all the time, would be a better choice, and put one of the ones that maybe don't make us, you know, but that's a sensitive, you know.
Well, if you saw from the minutes, the last meeting, we
Yeah.
couldn't get a quorum.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Well, that was kind of a thought here. If there's somebody that we could move back to, like an alternate that's not here, to make a more year-round.
Would you suggest doing 2 people instead of just 1?
Well, we can't do that. It's in our ordinance. We only have to have 5.
No, I mean,
Oh.
2 people shift up to the top, and 1 who is not able to make all the meetings drop down to an alternate.
Well, that was just a thought, not to demote anybody.
Well, it's really not a demotion. If you're unable to attend
Yeah.
frequently, it's written right into the rules in terms of how many meetings you can miss. I think when Scott and I were on, we were fortunate. We had a quorum.
Yeah.
I certainly, you and I were together on the meeting. We always had a
Yeah,
quorum.
we never seen that problem.
You know, that's something we can think about or do another day and
Yeah.
just promote Mr. Doherty. I just thought in the future, because of a lack of a quorum, that we might consider.
No, it's a good point. It was a little surprising to me when I saw that.
Because if you're a regular member, you kind of have a little bit more responsibility.
Right.
I think you kind of tend to do than being the alternate.
Well, why don't we monitor that and see if it, if it
Yeah.
happens again? I
Well,
think you're right.
just,
That may be something we should consider. Any other thoughts on that? Tom? Well, let's,
should we move
should
to
we-
Mr. Doherty up to be a regular member of the ARPB?
are you making a motion?
I
That
am.
was a motion, I'll second.
Rita?
Vice Mayor Gainer,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwine?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes. Okay. Let's go to ARPB. All right, Mr. Randolph.
Yes, thank you. I have prepared for your consideration today ordinance number 14/2. It is important that the town recognize its responsibilities under the law to provide reasonable accommodation to an individual or individuals who are disabled or handicapped, as those terms are defined in Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act and/or the Fair Housing Amendment Act, or a provider of services to the disabled qualifying for reasonable accommodation under the referenced statutes. Persons so qualifying can request a modification or an alteration in the application of specific code provisions, rules, policies, or practices as applied to them. The proposed accommodation sought by the disabled individual must be reasonable and necessary to afford such person an equal opportunity to use and enjoy housing. It is important that the town adopt within its code reasonable accommodation procedures that will permit disabled individuals or their qualified representatives to request reasonable accommodations and, where appropriate, based upon the facts and the law, to receive reasonable accommodations. It is my recommendation, therefore, that the town commission give consideration to adopting ordinance 14-2, which incorporates reasonable accommodation procedures. It is also my recommendation, so as not to cause any unnecessary delays to anyone wishing to avail themselves of a request for reasonable accommodations, that this ordinance be adopted today on one reading as an emergency ordinance. If you choose to adopt the ordinance, your motion should include a motion to adopt as an emergency ordinance on first reading. I will then request that after this first reading, that the town clerk advertise the ordinance to be readopted on second reading. So I passed this ordinance out to you. Basically what it does is it recognizes and repeats the law as it relates to the Fair Housing Amendments and Title II that I've just referenced. It indicates that the town should recognize that those laws apply and that reasonable accommodation procedures should be adopted in order to meet the concerns of the disabled and the handicapped in the town, particularly as it relates to housing. So that's what this does. It provides a procedure for people to take advantage of this, and it's my recommendation that you adopt it as an emergency ordinance on first reading today.
Questions and comments?
I just had one comment on it for the town attorney. Skip, the only thing, this tracks pretty much what these ordinances do. I think on some of these I've dealt with personally in the past, they've had a clause at the end that says, you know, your approval expires if you don't start your work or whatever you need to do for your reasonable accommodation within 180 days. I don't think it's too germane to what we're doing here today, but sometimes they do have that. I don't know. At the end.
Well, we have our regular conditions related to permits.
Expirations of
And
permits.
expiration dates in regard to permits.
Yeah.
This does indicate it has a time schedule, and if
Right.
the response is not met in regard to requests that come from the town manager or his designee, that the request would be abandoned, but it's a very strict time schedule. Other comments? Comments from the public?
Yes. Firstly, I would, my name is Martin O'Boyle. Firstly, I would ask that the chairman reconsider his earlier decision that this be held off because it is not part of the orders of the day.
No, sir. We're going to proceed.
So you're denying that motion.
Well, you don't make motions, so
Well, that's not true, but.
we're proceeding with it.
So
So
you're
you may make
proceeding.
your public comment about the ordinance that's been described by the town attorney, and certainly hear what you have to say.
Okay, but the motion for reconsideration, you're denying it.
I don't understand what you're doing. I've asked you to make public comment on the town
Right.
attorney's presentation of this
Right.
ordinance for our consideration.
Right.
You're referencing motions.
Right.
We just want to hear what you have to say about
And,
the
and,
ordinance.
and I understand that, and what I thought that I made clear, perhaps I didn't, if I didn't, I'm awful sorry, is that this meeting is run by Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order requires that the orders of the day be stuck to. You have denied that motion, that the orders of the day be, I can't think of the word, but be stuck to, meaning proceed in accordance with the agenda. You've denied that, and I understand that. And what I'm now asking for is a reconsideration of that denial. And it's yes or no, it's very easy.
Now, I believe you're misinterpreting Robert's Rules of Order on this matter. It's been presented in an acceptable fashion. You indicated that you wanted to comment on the ordinance, not on the presentation of it or the comment, because you've already made that objection. You've made that previously, and we heard that and considered it. Now, if you have comments to make about the ordinance itself, we would like to hear it.
Well, I do, I certainly do, but would it be appropriate for you to ask your counsel if a motion for reconsideration under Robert's Rules of Order is appropriate?
Anyone on the commission can make a motion for reconsideration, but I don't believe the commission has acted on anything that would cause a motion for reconsideration to be made.
Well,
They have just indicated, the chair has simply indicated that this is appropriately before them today and they will consider it. If anyone on the council wishes to change that, they can make a motion that it not be heard today. That would have to come from the commission. That motion wouldn't come from
okay, well,
anywhere else.
what we'll do is we'll agree to disagree and move on. How about that?
Please.
Okay. What is the genesis of this?
The genesis of this, for the commission's elucidation and yours, is the Boca Raton case, which dealt with disabled persons, and wherein it was determined by Judge Middlebrooks that it was important that Boca Raton have a reasonable accommodation ordinance in place to deal with applications that come in for housing or other exceptions to their code. And they adopted a similar ordinance, in fact, almost verbatim to this. I did not create it or imagine it. They presented this ordinance to Judge Middlebrooks, who approved it for the city of Boca Raton. And that's why I bring it to you.
Okay, fair enough. The medical records, are they a requirement or are they something that a person would just offer?
Now, do you want to hear comments, Mr. Mayor, or do you want us to go forward with these? The ordinance speaks for itself. It indicates that medical records should be supplied, but there's a provision in there that would indicate that they would be protected under, There's a paragraph that speaks to that.
Would you be kind enough to show it to me?
I think paragraph 3, should the information provided by the disabled individual to the town include medical information or records, including records indicate the medical condition, diagnosis, or medical history of the disabled individual. Such individual may, at the time of submitting such medical information, request that the town, to the extent allowed by law, treat such medical information as confidential information of the disabled individual.
Okay, so that's a request, not a requirement.
It's whatever it says.
It says request. And if it's requested, wouldn't it be in violation of HIPAA?
You know what,
This isn't a
I'm not here to be cross-examined in regard to the ordinance.
No, I'm not
I'm just simply saying that this is an ordinance that was approved by the judge from the Southern District Court of Florida. And I felt in presenting this, that it was an appropriate ordinance on that basis to present to the commission so that the disabled and the handicapped could be treated fairly in the town of Gulfstream based upon the law. And that's the sole purpose of presenting this to.
And I'm not disputing or debating what you're saying, but we've had all of about 4 minutes to look at this. So I think it's a little bit unfair to expect you, the writer, to have the same knowledge as us, the 4-minute reviewer. I think for us to make inquiry, I think is appropriate.
I think it is too. I think it is
And
appropriate.
that's all I'm trying to do. Because as an example, if I don't know I didn't read Judge Middlebrook's opinion, but I've read some opinions from other courts and other circuits, and they're somewhat different than this.
Well, this is in here, just as you say, to protect medical information under the HIPAA Act. So that's why this language is in.
Okay. Where does it say that?
HIPAA is not referenced in there. Paragraph 3 that I read is to partially address that situation.
Right, but it says request, and I'll leave it at that. It does not say a requirement. But my sense is, if there is a requirement, that is a violation of HIPAA. But again, we'll move on. In paragraph 6, there are several what look to be condition precedents. Am I correct in reading that?
I don't know what you mean by a condition precedent. This simply sets forth the conditions relating to appeals. It is placed in here to provide due process to anyone who feels that their application has been denied or dealt with improperly. So it just provides that within 30 days after the town manager's or his designee's reasonable accommodation request, such applicant may appeal the decision.
That's paragraph 6, is it not?
Now, that is paragraph 6.
Yeah, I'm talking 5.
I thought you said paragraph 6.
If I did, I apologize.
No need to apologize, I just need to know what paragraph you're talking about. So paragraph 5, you're questioning if there's a condition precedent in there?
Yeah, the paragraphs I, double I, and triple I, are they conditions precedent?
Well, it stands, the language stands for itself, and I'll read it. Although the definition of disability is subject to judicial interpretation, for purposes of this section, the disabled individual must show a physical or mental impairment which substantially limits one or more major life activities, a record of having such impairment, or that they are regarded as having such impairment. So those are things that need to be shown in order to establish a disability.
And I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I would, in my language, say they're conditions precedent, but once again, I think we can move on at this point. Has the municipality had an expert in this field? I know, counsel, you're an expert in your firm, or probably an expert in this area. But has the town had an expert? There are ADA experts out there, some of which are quite good. I don't know the ADA law, unfortunately. But there are people who do, and who do better than lawyers. Has anyone looked or in the connection with the drafting of this, other than yourself, or when I say yourself, your firm?
If you're asking if we've consulted with anyone from the ADA in regard to this, I have not directly. I patterned this after the Boca Raton ordinance, which was submitted to the federal district court and approved for Boca Raton.
No, I wasn't.
The answer to your question is I have not consulted with anyone in the ADA in regard to this.
No, outside of the ADA. As an
Consulted
example,
with
someone who's done 10 of these.
I've consulted with attorneys with the city of Boca Raton.
That's fair enough with me. Thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Any other questions of the town attorney or comments on the emergency ordinance? So a motion to adopt the emergency ordinance for a first reading.
Motion to adopt the emergency ordinance for first reading.
It's not for first reading, it's adopting it on first reading.
I was listening to what
Yep,
he said,
yeah.
I just parroted, sorry about that. You got the odd bit. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the emergency ordinance on first reading. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We need to read it by title. It's an ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, providing an amendment to Chapter 66 zoning, Article 1 in general, to include a new section, Section 66-11, providing for reasonable accommodation procedures pursuant to the Fair Housing Amendments Act and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date.
With that title, we have a motion and a second. Read it.
Vice Mayor Gainer,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
And we will go forward and advertise this for readoption on second reading.
Any other items by,
Yes. You will probably read in the newspapers in a day or so, or tomorrow, that the city of Delray Beach conducted what turned out to be like a 4.5-hour meeting last night with respect to a proposal, the genesis of which is not clear, but a proposal to consolidate fire and rescue with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. And the debate was a little emotional, but less than I might have thought. Very substantive. Both sides of the argument were presented skillfully by the presenters, which included the Assistant Chief of Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, the Chief of Delray, and the financial manager, a new financial manager of Delray Beach, who had been tasked to go through the numbers in considerable detail because it was an extremely complicated merger proposal. He did so. He suggested that he basically said he didn't think it was a good idea, but he recognized that further study was required. The commission tended to support his findings. The fire chief in Delray basically said that she thought that they should remain independent, serving just Delray and Highland Beach and Gulfstream if those contracts continue as currently written. So the conclusion was that they would do no further staff evaluation of the original proposal, that the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue could resubmit another proposal for a longer period of time because it was basically a one-year plan. Whether or not that means they will come back, no one knows, but it was pretty clear that the city of Delray Beach rejected the idea of giving up their now 100-year-old fire department and turning it over to the county. In the course of the discussion, as should have been the case, the contracts with both Highland Beach and with Gulfstream were discussed. There was a mood that they are going to need to find some ways to enhance the wages and to some extent the benefits program of the fire department, and that they would be looking for ways to raise more money to be able to do that. I say that only because obviously Highland Beach has about a $3.5 million contract with Delray Beach, but that includes the station, equipment, and staff. We are just, you know, an extra mile or two up the road for the Delray Beach station. What is it, 2?
Area.
I must say, it was a very sensible, a professional discussion, and I think that we are literally going to have to be very vigilant in the discussions of the extension of our own contract, which I guess, Bill, goes, what's the number? You always...
The year?
Yeah. Highland Beach is up in 2017. Yeah.
2020.
2020. But you know, I really do believe that the decision not to go to the county was done sensibly, not with any particular rancor or emotion. However, as one listened after the meeting to the talk in the lobbies, obviously the Delray Beach Fire people were disappointed because it does represent an opportunity for them for both personal advancement into a larger, it's like going from, you know, class AAA to the major leagues for them, and the probability of more pay. So
That's encouraging.
it is encouraging, and I'm not sure how the press is going to handle it. The media lasted so late that they'd all gone home, but I commend our friends at Delray for handling a complicated task very, very well.
And you attended that?
I was there for 4.5 hours.
You already done it.
Yeah. But by the way, the mayor and vice mayor and city manager of Highland Beach were also in attendance. None of us spoke. We did submit the material in writing, but none of us spoke. And what I submitted was not on behalf of the town.
Yeah. I'm glad you attended, and thank you for that update. It's very informative and very, very helpful. Any other comments of Commissioner? If there are no other items to consider, the meeting's adjourned.